We tend to think of mental health as, well, a personal thing, right? A battle fought inside our own heads. But what if that's only half the story? What if the systems we live in, our jobs, the economy, are actually the ones putting the cracks in our spirit? That's what we're diving into today. How the world around us really shapes our mental well-being. Okay, so first things first. Before we go any further, let's get on the same page. When we say mental wellness, what are we really talking about? See, it's so much more than just not being sick. It's not just the absence of a problem. True wellness is about the presence of something good. It's about having that sense of peace, a real purpose, and a feeling of balance in your life. It's what actually lets us thrive, not just survive. And here's the kicker. This isn't some solo mission. You can't just find it in isolation. It's something we build together. It's built on a solid foundation of community, fairness, and just basic compassion. At the end of the day, it's all about our connection to each other and the world. So that's the ideal, right? That's the goal we're all shooting for. But unfortunately, the reality for millions of people across the Americas, well, it tells a completely different and much tougher story. So let's look at the facts. What's actually happening with mental health in this part of the world? I'll be honest, the data? It's pretty sober. Okay, get this. Between the years 2000 and 2021, deaths from intentional self-harm in the Americas went up by a staggering 17%. Just let that number sink in. That's not just a statistic on a page. We're talking about a massive, growing public health crisis here. And here's what makes this so incredibly alarming. In every, and I mean every other WHO region, these rates are going down. They're declining. The Americas is the only place on the map where they are actively rising. That tells us something is uniquely and deeply wrong here. So you have to ask, right, what is going on? What's behind this trend? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle seems to be the incredible pressure that comes from our economic lives, from the whole system of work itself. Let's zoom in on something called underemployment. It's this silent stressor that affects so many people. It's when you have a job, right? You might even have two jobs. You're working your tail off, but you still can't make ends meet. You can't cover the basic necessities. So yeah, you're employed, but the system isn't actually supporting you. And this kicks off a really vicious cycle. It all starts with that feeling of job insecurity. That leads directly to financial strain, which means you're constantly worried about money. So what happens? People take on more debt just to stay afloat. And that just piles on even more pressure. Before you know it, you're just trapped in survival mode 24/7. And that is absolutely emotionally exhausting. Now, we hear it all the time, don't we? Just talk about it. Open up about your mental health. And look, that is so, so important. But is it really enough? Can talking alone fix these huge systemic problems we're facing? I mean, this is where you really see the gap, the disconnect. The advice is talk openly about your feelings. But the reality is, talking can't pay your rent. It can't fix unjust pay or make sure you have a safe place to live. Some researchers from the University of the West Indies and PAHO, they just hit the nail on the head. They basically said that when the very structures around us are crumbling, your job, your housing, your community, all the best advice in the world feels, well, it feels pretty hollow. It's like trying to build a house with no foundation. It's just not going to work. Okay, so if just focusing on the individual isn't enough, then what's the answer? Where do we even go from here? Well, the big idea is to shift our entire focus. Instead of just treating the problem after it happens, we need to focus on preventing it from happening in the first place. Taking a public health approach means we start building a society that actually supports our wellness from the ground up. Just think about it. Imagine if everyone had a stable job that paid a fair wage. Imagine if therapy was actually affordable and easy to get to for anybody who needs it. What if we taught emotional skills in schools right from the start? Imagine a world where our essential workers could get help without any stigma, and where we had real community spaces to just connect with each other. That's the world we could be building. Look, at the end of the day, this is so much bigger than a personal struggle. It's a societal one. So the really important question we need to ask isn't just, how can I cope? The real question is, how can we build a society that doesn't break our spirits to begin with? What systems are we ready to build to heal ourselves together?